Welcome back to Evangelist, and he's going to deliver a panel called, now hopefully get this right, I'm just blanking, yeah, sorry, The Power of the Preorder, Gotta Catch 'Em All in the 2020s, by your host, Evangelist. Let's give it up, another TFcon welcome.
Hey everybody, hey everybody, hey ho everybody. Thank you all for chilling in a panel room. Rather than being one of the folks heading there to get last-minute deals in the dealer room, because you're about to learn why you don't need to. Also, just as a little thing, how do you all feel about theater of the mind? It's all right? Maybe. You know, sometimes they say, is this panel a bit? And sometimes you say, maybe, I don't know. But I'm here to talk to you about the power of pre-order. We are in an era where pre-orders are one of the most common griped about topics you'll catch in Transformers fandom discourse. It's hard to catch pre-orders. Pre-orders don't come out on time. Pre-orders come out too early. Pre-orders don't come out at all on Amazon when it's the Conehead 2-pack. So I figured that I'd take us on a little trip to take control of pre-orders one way or another through force. So this panel is called The Power of Pre-Order, How to Catch 'Em All in the 2020s, featuring some known Transformers characters related to the name of this panel. What we're going to talk about is the problems. We got to identify them, right? As I said, pre-ordering Transformers is like a lifestyle for some of us now. There are distribution disasters, because maybe you just can't find any in your area. Maybe you live somewhere where your Walmart's your only source, and they restock once every 18 months. You've seen wave one of everything, and only wave one of everything. Maybe you have completionism calamities, because amidst all of this trouble, you still doggedly wish to own one of every mold. Something that is harder and harder to do with every passing year, especially right now when we have Generations, Studio Series, Cyberverse, and Rise of the Beasts, The Core, the toy line, which is currently my understanding to be its actual name. There are budgetary barriers, because as there are more and more Transformers coming out that are kind of cool, it's more and more expensive to get a hold of all of them, and then when you can't get them at your local store, just at your own whim, on sale, etc., you have to pre-order everything, it becomes more expensive, and then you run into time titillations, because the timing of those pre-order windows are prescribed when you place the pre-order, and sometimes that prescription does not come to pass. Sometimes an October date becomes an August date. Sometimes a July date becomes a January date. And sometimes you pre-ordered it and it's shipping tomorrow. What just happened? So, it's time for some solutions. To those previous problems, the solutions are simple. Dominion of the globe. Dominion of the mind. Dominion of dollar. And dominion of time. Simply put, in order to catch every Transformer you want, to be a completionist, to make sure everything runs swimmingly and every shelf space is occupied in a timely manner, you must become the Dominator. Anyone here want to become the Dominator? All right! Then stay tuned and, keep an open mind. Let's talk about dominating the globe. That's the globe. So first you're going to need to form patrol routes. Obviously you might have your usual toy hunting grounds, but you need to have internet hunting grounds as well, and not just one. You can't rely on Amazon, you can't rely on the big bad toy store. You got to go to all of them. You got to check them every day. You got to set alerts. You got to make sure that you're refreshing at their refresh times in both North American and European time zones. You've got to create an omni network, that being the folks who can do things when you can't. If you still have to sleep, if you still have to eat, you can get people out there to comb the patrol routes for you and notify you of any pre-orders that may have come up in the time in which you've been away tending to other less important matters. And finally, occupy every time zone. This is a map of the globe. You don't have to just live in you can't see my mouse cursor, so we'll just say in Canada there, the blue bit. You need to have sources in the purple bit, the orange bit, the green part, and the pink country. You got to make sure that you got sources all over the place to make sure that you have dominated the globe with your awareness of the launch of pre-orders of Transformers action figures. And then you got to dominate the mind. Because that's a lot of mental work to take on, right? Running a network, a global network, to ensure that you know where everything is at all times, you got to have a real big mind. You got to engage in what we call joker sleep. You got to bust that down to the Vince McMahon. You got to sleep 4 hours a day, work out 20 hours, and eat steak for 10. You got to have constructive uses of FOMO, the fear of missing out. We can't fear missing out, and we certainly can't fear the fear of missing out. Fear is power. And envision your personal anti-life equation. You got to deprogram your mind of sleep and of fear. You got to hold on to the global network you've built and the anti-life equation you make for yourself. It's a terminology we use in the business, is how you're going to streamline that process and get rid of all those little pesky things like fear, sleep, emotions, which brings us to the dominion of the dollar, which is what we use as a tool to engage in these pre-orders. Pre-orders, unfortunately, do still cost money. There are pre-order prices, right? And you got to set money aside for them. So, there's new Leaders and Voyagers coming out. I've got my pre-orders in. I've got, about $210 of pre-orders to worry about. And I know that they're coming out in August and October. You'd think, right, that a simple graph like this is enough to keep track of everything. You've got your toy costs, your life costs, and then your other hobby costs. And eventually, if you really streamline things and engage in some joker sleep, you take these 3-bar graphs, you crush them down to a 2-bar graph, and then finally, once you've completely optimized yourself for pre-ordering, it's a 1-bar graph. That's the simple binary way to go about things when pre-order prices and dates make sense. However, pre-orders release early, right? So you got to prepare for a full payment on each of the listed pre-order dates, or as we call them, hypothetical finances, or hypothetonomics. So you've got to get a pretty good understanding of hypothetonomics, and thus, when you pre-order that Voyager and that Leader, which are coming out on August and October respectively, you got to prepare for what if they both come out in August. So you take that full cost, you don't split it between the two dates, you put the full cost on both dates and make sure you have money set in August and October for the full cost of your pre-orders. That's the beginning of hypothetical finances, or hypothetonomics. The problem, of course, is that things are not that simple. This kind of line graph could cover, yet again, a simple world where pre-order dates simply stack, they slip. The 2 toys that we announced coming out in 2 different months, they came out on the same month. We all know that that's not what's going to happen, right? Has anyone here ever been subject to that? You pre-ordered, say, a Jurassic Park Transformers Collab 2-pack that was supposed to come out in January. Instead, it came out the day before TFcon that year, thus bottoming your fun money budget. Yeah. So we can't rely on a simple line graph like this, and our hypothetonomics have to basically quantify. So we have to enter into the final dominion, that of the dominion of time. Pre-order dates, they constantly slide, they butt together, right? Time is presented to us as concrete, but in truth, time is a soft gel. Kind of like hair conditioner or hand sanitizer or luncheon meat. So you have to duplicate and stack your hypothetonomics. You can't just say, I'll have all the money set aside for October and all of it for August. Because right now it's July. And maybe you did these pre-orders, let's wind back a bit, in March. How many different days between March and October could all your toys come out at the same time? Therefore, you adjust your hypothetonomics into a simple omnitemporal algorithm to be perpetually prepared for every toy to release every day between now and the day of actual release. So, starting in March, every single day between March and October, just set aside the $250 so that you have it available every single day. Now, you will have to pull out of your housing, your life costs, your eating. I'm sure you can figure that all out, especially with the advantage of things like your personal anti-life equation and joker sleep. So, I've got a few simple visual examples now for you of what this line graph looks like. Now, as you can see, we occupy one of these temporal coordinates, okay? And each different one is a different outcome of when your toys come out. And if you want to make sure you keep completionism of your pre-orders, you've got to be prepared for not just all 6 of these are simply the 6 most common one that we all know about, obviously. There's the spiral, there's the sun, there's the pinwheel, there's the circle, there's the double triangle, there's the sunflower, and there's the donut. We all know this as the 6 major timelines we occupy. And at any given time, obviously, you're able at this point as a living adult to be able to identify where on each of these graphs you occupy simultaneously, since we do exist across all of time and space. So you simply have to prepare your finances for any one of these simple vectors to be when all or none or some of your pre-orders come out, and be ready with all that money at every single, as I said, vector. Do I have any questions? I have one over here. There is more presentation, but we should cover this.
So I'm seeing it 6 diagrams, but you mentioned 7 shapes. Should I be wearing like 3D glasses?
Oh, you can't see the 7th shape? Oh, I'm really sorry about that. It might come with time. It's a maturation thing. Yes, we have another question here.
So my problem with the meaning of time is my past self is doing all these pre-orders that my present or future self forgets about and is surprised by the money. How does that play in?
Well, there's a couple different solutions, because obviously the most efficient way to deal with this is to become your own personal temporal assassin. And there's nothing better than eliminating the past self to simply exist as the present self turning into the future self. If you completely eliminate the past self once, there is no more past self. You're simply always in the present. But obviously, that's a very 7th, sometimes 8th shape kind of concept to deal with, right? So the real thing to think about is when you do your pre-orders, right, because you are your future's past self, as we all know, you got to think with some empathy about your future self, but also don't be a wuss. Your future self has got to man up, as they say. Your future self has got to knuckle up and pull those overalls up to their neck and get ready for a fist fight. And there's no better way to bring it to your future self to ensure that you become a tougher person than to load that hypothetical Jeremy up with, say, $500 of Transformers action figure pre-orders. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, perfectly clear.
Okay, thank you. If we are all set, I can move on. Any other questions? Okay, right here.
Yes. How do I find the nearest madman with a box that may have access to the time-space continuum?
Yeah, we don't talk about piracy here at these panels. You wouldn't download a time machine. I wouldn't say that so loudly. That is against Ontario bylaws. I have no you wouldn't. He said he would download a time machine, which is ridiculous. You'd be arrested before you did it. That's how time cops work. The precogs will know you're going to do it. The only reason they haven't come in here now is because that was a funny haha joke.
Well, is that the way to get the police box to come, though?
Well, the thing is, you can't make the police box come because the police box knows you want it to come here, and that's against the rules. Once again, precogs, time cops, they'd know that the police box was coming, therefore the police box can't come because you want it to come, the police box has to come because you don't want it to come right now, but you want it to come within this spirograph that we currently occupy, so it'll find its way to worm its way in if it is able to do so between the patrol routes of the time cops.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. I'll just continue on if we have no more questions. So, becoming the Dominator. I think we're all feeling probably pretty ready now, right? To become the Dominator. So, all you need to do, very simply, excuse me, I'll just check my time. Okay, all you need to do, very simply, is attain a mastery of the world, the mind, quantum economics, hypothetonomics, and time itself. Pretty easy stuff. And that way, your collection of Transformers action figures will never be incomplete. That is why we're all here. This is the purpose of this panel. This requires, however, a certain amount of it. And you all know what I mean, right? Like, some folks struggle with these concepts, but those of us in the room, those of us who knew we don't have to go to the dealer room for last-minute deals because we can get all these pre-orders in. We all have that it, right? Now, I need to take a quick sip of water here because I don't mean to get off on a bit of a rant, but I've been hearing a lot of people dropping a different word, and this kind of got on my nerves the other day. Did you know Riz is based on the word charisma? I thought it was just funny kid talk. And honestly, I don't know why. It really, really sounds like BS to me because, like, it doesn't roll off the tongue when it's the middle of a word. It sounds like something palpable. Riz sounds like something you chew on. Maybe you suck the end off of, to get, like, all this sweet honey. So, I've been suggesting to people we could do some ka-riz, we could do some sema. I was talking to some folks, I was like, yo, people are like, oh, that guy's got big drip, he's dripping in Riz. And they could be like, well, I got a big jar of sema with me. But then we're always got that face happening, so, I'm ahead of my time. Anyway, I really had to get this off my chest. It was bothering me since yesterday. Oh, sorry, this was an old slide. So advice for the normal. And this is maybe for folks who did finish all their last minute dealer purchases, but I was advised I should maybe throw in a little bit of advice for folks who are not able to attain that mastery we spent so much time talking about. So don't overcommit. If you aren't able to engage in simple hypothetonomics, just don't overcommit your pre-orders, because every time you think that future you will catch up, Jeremy, he won't. Or at least he'll grow to loathe past him, and then, as I mentioned before, past you might be down for a temporal assassination, and like low-key, if you're not trained, that's a time paradox. That's why there's only 7 shapes now. So use your experience and personal subjective criteria to pre-order out of love, not duty. And this can be made difficult sometimes, but in Canada, one of the silver linings, I say somewhat ironically, is that most of our best venues don't let us pre-order by wave. So you actually just have the straightforward option of pre-ordering the things you want. You don't have to think, I gotta commit to the wave. But with things getting more expensive, with pre-orders becoming this somewhat stressful process for the Rizless, the normal, maybe it's good to just think about when you see a new wave announced. If something in that wave you had to think about for a second to feel like you might want it, maybe just let it go. Because I'll tell you, I felt that way about Legacy Crosshairs. I see him everywhere still. I can buy one at my leisure. So I feel like I overcame, the pre-orders FOMO in that case. And also, can you stand to miss it? And if it happens, can you stand to pay the aftermarket premium? Because sometimes that premium is a $5 premium in a dealer room. I noticed that there were some like $35 deluxes for $40, and I was kind of like, it'd be nice to get it for $35, but if I really want it, nothing really jumped at me, but I was kind of sitting there like, that's a $5 convenience fee to just pick it up now if I still really want it. And also some things, can you stand to miss them? Like, what was his name again? Legacy Crosshairs. Crosshairs? Am I mixing him up? Point Blank. Target Master. The red one. There are some figures where I thought like, oh, I can't afford all of them right now. Oh, I can't afford this one. And then 8 months passed by and I still saw them in Walmart over and over again. And I thought like, you know what, maybe I'm going to leave you there. And eventually a friend of mine who didn't want you will just give you to me for $5 or something, more like 10 or 15. But you get my point. Pre-order out of convenience and pre-order rarely. In my opinion. Unless, of course, you're fine with all of it, but I think the pre-ordering, it should be something you're doing just so it's easier for you. It shouldn't be something you're doing because you have to, and if I don't, I'm going to miss it. Like, make your pre-orders a service to you, because that's kind of what they were always supposed to be in the first place. And when I say rarely, it's mostly because if you do, heavy pre-orders once or twice, it's real easy to fall into a seasonal rhythm that becomes a weekly rhythm, depending on how many things you're into and how many pre-orders happen. We got a hand up.
I'm just having a hard time following this. Where's the simplicity of the five-dimensional graphs?
Oh, well, this is a little bit of a follow-up slide for the folks who might be coming in a bit late. Everyone who saw the graphs and understood the graphs and saw at least 6 shapes. Don't worry. We'll talk later. They all got it already. So This is kind of like learning a little bit of bonus arithmetic in case you forgot your pluses and minuses while you were doing your hash dots and your x's. And final little point on here, take a gamble on the unknown, in my opinion. Like I said, pre-ordering, do it for the things that you know, like, oh my god, this one character, this one figure, I love him. But the stuff where you're like, oh, that looks cool, you know what's also really cool, in my opinion, is taking the gamble and like stumbling across it one day. And then like having that sense memory, that flash moment where you're like, hey, I remembered, I thought that thing was cool. And then I forgot about it for 7 or 8 months, but now it's here and on rollback. I think it's a minor victory that one can have. Again, I'm speaking to, the normal. That actually really kind of satisfied. I thought I was going to have less time on this presentation. So I am open for some Q&A since we are kind of just chilling out, right, through the end of the show. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about dealing with pre-orders, dealing with collector stresses, time, and space. I will answer literally any question about anything to the best of my ability. And I'm sure there are plenty of questions out there about like, why is it warmer in the summer? Or, why do I always find like one sock in a drawer and then the other one in the laundry hamper a year later? Like any of those kind of things I can answer. Also things about toy collecting. I have a panel series that is up on YouTube, constantly being updated with some of the older ones from the late 2010s, kind of called How to Enjoy the Toy, sort of the catch-all. A lot of the concepts in here are drawn from that, and I found that collectors often don't really talk about collecting except to gripe about it. And I think there's constructive conversation to be had, and also, not epiphanies, but there are some concepts that can help folks feel at least less stressed about what should be a stressless hobby. I've come to the opinion that toy collecting should generally just be something that is 90% serotonin. And at times I feel like nowadays it is sometimes 30% serotonin. Also, just a quick question. Did anyone have any crises of FOMO in the dealer room this show? All right, that's not a bad ratio. One in front and one in back. What was yours in front?
Jurassic Park Transformer set. Didn't get it.
Oh, don't worry. It's been around. It'll be around for a while. And in the back, we had a crisis of FOMO.
There was a Star Convoy, the new 185 one, the third-party one.
Oh,
It's $185 and it's huge. I'm a small mortal man with mortal home.
well, that's an important thing to be putting into your subjective qualities assessment. Because, yeah, if the toy is big and it feels like the toy is bigger than you,
He's not.
but does he feel bigger?
No. Not my size.
How big are you?
You know this answer, Chris. That's weird.
How big a jar of SEMA have you got?
Most can handle.
Excellent. It's going to catch on. Oh, sorry, we got one over here.
Oh, no, I actually had a diploma too, which is rare for me, but I didn't really want anything this year. But as soon as I realized that Michael was here, the creator of Deckbuilding, I was like, oh, I want to get a buy Deckbuilding and get to sign it. So, but I missed a couple opportunities to get it early on cheaper, but I finally found them in the room just today, bought it, and got to sign it, so I was happy.
Oh, okay. So
It was fun.
the spirograph became the donut.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry, there's one over here.
Bumblebee Jazz, the Bumblebee Buzz with the line. I saw like 5 of them there for like $40, and I'm like, budget or half. So I've already went way over budget.
Yeah, and remember that, like, he'll be around again. That's been the hardest thing I found, like, in the world of, like, instant gratification Amazon carts. I've had lots of trouble with this years past, like, remembering that, like, if I don't do it now, it will cycle around again. Like, like I said before, like, the way that I try to fashion things like that, not just pre-orders, but also, like, last-minute impulse buys like that, they've got to be in service of me, basically. Because I'm buying myself an action figure, so it should be in service of me. Over here.
Well, could that be a result of the old mentality that we had when we used to have to go out and hunt in the wild, and if we didn't get it when we saw it, for fear of like the scalpers getting it, and now it's kind of like we have to do reverse? So we're deprogramming ourselves?
Yeah, well, and there is also, like, I've talked to folks very recently where there's also just the fear if you don't get it right now, it might disappear because it just doesn't distribute out to your store shelves. And like, that's legit. That's also why I feel that like toy buying still has got to be in service of yourself and your personal like happy brain chemicals, because it sucks to say it, but like if it is out of a fear that you won't see it again, I do think that there is like in fans who are around in like the aughts and stuff, there is that lingering also feeling of like we don't know how much is coming out, and so much is coming out that we can afford it all. There's a certain ceiling on how much is coming out. Those are habits to break, but there is definitely like a common feeling, like right now in Canada, if the new wave of Legacy goes up on GameStop and you don't get all those pre-orders in right away, then they all, de-pre-orderize, the button turns off. It's like, damn, missed my chance. I might see one later. It's a legit fear, but then you've got to like step on the fear and go like, this is no longer in service of me if I'm worried about this. Sorry, did you have your hand up?
I feel like it also goes back to when we were kids, because if everyone's getting like the newest thing, right? We want to feel,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's like, my friends over there have the newest, they have the newest series of Transformers figures from Cybertron or from Energon, and I don't have those. Or,
Yeah.
Like I missed out on a majority, well, pretty much all of the Armada line, but my best friend down the street.
And that is also where I'm gonna self-plug slightly to check out that panel series. But chasing the zeitgeist, as it were, trying to hunt down the time ghost, is something that I think, especially when you interact in communities and you watch news coverage, it's easy to feel like if I don't pick it up now, it doesn't matter. But that's where I get into like the subjective qualities of collecting. It's still got to be in service of you. And if it feels like it's because you want to get it while it's fresh, it's not necessarily in service of yourself. It's more.
I don't get it while it's fresh. I get it when.
Yeah, there's a question from the young man over here.
Are all pre-order locations created equal? How can we tell the difference?
Right.
Excellent question. They are not all created equal. In fact, some of them are what I call second-rate pre-orders on a third-rate internet. Basically, in Canada right now, if you have the Platinum membership, GameStop pre-orders are the best because you save tax. That's why there tends to be a rush there. But if you're out pre-ordering and you're wanting to be thrifty about it, it's like GameStop and Amazon. But if you have a local hookup or a local store, my understanding is if you pre-order through a local toy shop, if you're lucky enough to have one, that is a way to support the local toy shop existing. It's and you can think of it almost as like, I don't want to say throwing a tip, but it's like throwing support to them to be a source that you know and can speak with, just in case things go wrong and Amazon never gets the 2-pack of Coneheads in that you pre-ordered after telling you for a year and a half that they're going to get them in. If you did it through a local person you knew, you could at least talk to them about it. Amazon, you can't talk to because it's one giant robot brain.
If you're still looking for that red Target Master, we got some down at my Walmart.
Oh, we got some of my Walmart too. I see them every time.
2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, wait, where the heck were these the whole way? And then we now just got the G2 stuff for Legacy and Evolution. And so I was like, oh, they got the G2 combiner piece. I was going to grab them. And then because I was doing the stocking.
Mm.
And so I walked to go have my break or lunch. I come back, the box is on top. The only one taken was that, I think it was Dead End?
Yeah, your combiner dude.
Yeah. And I'm like, why was that the only one taken?
It's because people don't got taste for beautiful colors like orange. But yeah, it's easy to feel like, oh, the one I wanted was grabbed, but the easy way to rationalize it, it's probably the one that someone else wanted too, if it's the one you wanted, right?
Oh, no, yeah. And plus I already have that piece in the regular G1 colors.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like I've already finished Menace.
No, I went through something similar because 2 days before TFcon, 3 days. The second day is when I went there. A local hobby shop got in a giant shipment of Warhammer 40,000 action figures by the very normal company Joy Toy. And so suddenly there were about $400 of figures that I thought were going to come out in a staggered pace that came out 3 days before a convention with a $210 exclusive that I wanted. So what I did is I spent a whole night staring at all of them on a website and almost ordering one twice, and then I talked myself out of it, and I decided, no, let's just let the universe decide. If I leave it alone, I'll leave it alone. I'll go to TFcon. If they're still there when I get back and I didn't get anything at TFcon, then hey, it was meant to be. Then a day later, I went there with 2 friends of mine from out of town and bought something with them. And then now I got it. Look, they were doing a group deal, right? So it's not like I actually saved like 10% on this. I didn't follow my own advice very well there, but it's a similar situation to like, stuff coming out right during a period where you think you're going to do a big spend. Sometimes you just go for it. Sometimes though, if you can, like maybe don't go for it. Hi! Oh, okay. Hey, good to see you. Sorry, is someone over here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How would you say your advice and own personal buying habits differ for pre-orders for domestic versus import?
Funnily enough, I feel like import is more accessible because it's like inherently online. So I lose the feeling of like, oh, I got to make sure I deal with all the other collectors in my local area. And it's just, it's all online. Granted, when it comes to things I really, really want that are imports, they're also generally large enough that I feel I could do a Mandarake chase and just eat the DHL without feeling like I'm paying DHL on like a single candy toy. But yeah, there's also more stores like bringing in import stuff. I feel like in Toronto specifically, there are shops where I actually can window shop like SH Fig Arts and other import lines. Obviously, they're not like as cost effective as ordering online, but then that goes into the whole idea of, am I okay to pay the convenience fee, right? If you can see the 7 shapes and optimize all of your spending, thread those 7 needles perfectly, then you can pull it off. But at a certain point, I just want to chill out and I want the toys to be in service of me. So I'll just let some things slip by, and I'm sure I can find them on Mandarake. I can find them in aftermarkets. Because also, eventually, if you get enough things coming in, you get these giant boxes of toys, and you're like, hey, it takes me a month to open the things I have. And then that's also where I feel like, unless you've made a business around opening things slowly on camera, I don't know. It feels like a good limiter to consider as well. I saw nodding there.
Yeah.
How big's your pile?
I've got a local guy so I do pre-orders, and because to support the local guy, and he holds, normally I get 3 to 4 at a time. So I've always got a box going, and I try to limit myself to 1 per day, and not just mass open things, because then I'm worried about like forgetting the greatness of the first thing, and moving on to the greatness of the second thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've always got like a 2 open whenever I get a delivery.
I'll open stuff as soon as I get it just to check the QC and make sure we know it.
See, that's the thing you got to ride, right? Because you want to prolong it, but then if you have enough things come in, you'll be like an old friend who has like a Macross toy for like a year and a half, who never opened it. Then when he opens it, there was a QC problem. And it's like, you're well outside the 60-day window, though, my man. I saw a hand up over there and then over here, so we'll go over there first.
Hey, you talked about FOMO for pre-orders. What about pre-ordering something simply to not have to deal with scalpers and scalpers in general?
Oh, well, the way we deal with scalpers, it's not to play their game by pre-ordering it, it's to find out where they live. And then, oh wait, hang on, okay, it's still before 6 p.m. I can't go into that topic. What I will say though is, this once again goes into the thing of like making sure the pre-orders are in service of yourself. Because I've been there, but there was a point where I felt like I'm doing this pre-order to play the game of folks who want to bull rush this product, and I don't like the feeling. And it bled over to my enjoyment of the idea of getting a hold of the thing. Actually, an example, sort of, a little bit of a parallel, is Huntsman. this year at TFcon, the Stalker repaint. I really liked him. I had Stalker growing up as a kid. And I was like, I'd love to pick that figure up. And then I saw, oh, there's 600, and he seems to be the one. Everyone is saying, oh my God, I want to get that thing. So when I came here, I basically laid out a plan to myself, which was on Saturday morning, I will calmly wake up when I want to, go take a shower, go to the breakfast buffet, and then walk into the dealer room sometime after opening. And if Stalker's still there, I'll pick him up. If he's not, I will just let that whole concept go. Granted, this didn't play out in the most moralistically pinnacle way because I walked in there and they had 8 left. So I bought one. But I also then felt like, hey, that proved that also if you just don't fear the people bull rushing the line, you just walk right in, maybe they got 8 left on the table and everyone seems to be leaving them alone for a minute. I'm big on removing stress from the enjoyment side of a hobby as much as possible, and it's the phrase I keep using, but I want it to be in service of me, right, when I do it. But fighting scalpers can also kind of feel fun if it's easy to do at times, right? If you feel like, oh, I friggin' sniped that away from that dude, or if a guy's got like 8 in a cart and you go like, achoo! Oh boy, walk off with one of them. He'll never notice there's only 7 in his cart. Anyway, I hope that answered the
stress removal is simply why I personally am ordering much more things from GameStop. The previous job had me out and about a lot more, so I could actually hunt on my leisure. That's been removed now, and pre-ordering has allowed me to just be like, this is what I want, and GameStop's going to call me when I have the ability to come in and get it, and I don't have to worry about this or that, and I can pick and choose what I want, and then I'll just come in and get it. I don't have to worry about hunting, because I really enjoy the hunt, but if I can't do it, then I do get that FOMO.
Well, as long as like stacking the pre-orders never runs you into any of the aforementioned problems of the Rizless, by which I mean the normal, then you're in your situation it will work. But it's such a common refrain, right? That like folks are like, yeah, I've stacked $300 of pre-orders, and I'm kind of hoping they come out when they say they'll come out. So that's sort of an inherent thing with a lot of collecting advice. Is within your means is going to be within your own context, but it's pretty easy, in my opinion, for folks to end up stacking these what should be year-long purchases, and it's not uncommon for them to suddenly just drop in massive clumps, which is, in my opinion, it is like an inherent like other stressor that can kind of float over it. Like when people see these 3 figures are starting to ship, people start finding them, they're starting to show up in inboxes. It's not uncommon for me to see people react with, oh no. Like they'll think like, oh no, I thought that was going to be in September. I thought that was going to be 2 months from now. So that lack of clarity on on the timeline of things is why we then need to have dominion over time. The 7 shapes. We had a question over here.
Yeah, I gotta ask you, how many ulcers have you developed over the years trying to secure pre-orders for Macross stuff?
Oh!
During pre-order Hell Nights.
You know what's funny? 0.
You're very, very lucky.
Do you know what I did on one of the first Macross pre-order nights? I logged on to Ami and I pushed a button and it just went through, and then I went and watched 4 of my friends for another 2 hours in a Discord having a terrible time, and I felt kind of guilty because I think I also bought the toy just because it was easy and they were having a hard time. But I ended up really liking it. I think it was the Draken, like way back. Yeah. And thanks to that, I also waltzed into Mirage's VF31, which was pretty. Turns out that was a good thing to happen. Hey, we got one over here.
So you seem quite learned.
Yes.
Well, being learned comes from failure. So what is your darkest pre-order period in your life?
Oh boy, that's when I was filling carts with Monster Arts and Fig Arts on Ami in the early 2010s, because I was still deprogramming from Fig Arts being toys that came out like 2 of them a month, tops.
One rider a month.
Yeah.
Then it was rider and Sentai, then it was rider and Sentai, and then
Then it was like 3 riders, and it was like 3 riders in these other properties, and it was the Avengers. So that's probably the darkest pre-order time, and I think that also is kind of like what I've built my current approach on pre-orders from since then. It's that and just the number of times where like I'll do pre-orders and everything makes sense when I do them, and then again dates shift, and then suddenly it's like, hey, a Titan and 2-liter class and a Scout came in all today, and we know we marked them as 922 and it's currently 613, but anyway, you have 2 weeks to come in and deal with this, et cetera, and it's kind of like I was actually not prepared for that. So I guess those are not as dark. The darkest is when I don't remember doing a pre-order, and then I saw an email saying, yeah, you've pre-ordered SH Monster Arts King Ghidra and 3 Fig Arts and something else. And I had to email Ami going like, I think I sleepwalk pre-ordered this. Can I please cancel it without you murdering me? Because at the time, that's when Ami cancellations were like.
I think half a bottle of rye pre-ordered this and not me.
Yeah. That was just on autopilot. Anyway, have we got any other questions, perhaps about life or the universe, perhaps about whatever panels are coming next, because there are still panels to come. Can you believe it? We've got an organizer Q&A, and then after that, we've got the transmissions folks back there all ready and set to go. I thought for a second everyone's going to turn and look, and you were all just going to sit there and like, no, don't know who you're talking about. Yeah, there's going to be a post-show podcast panel, roundtable talk, all kinds of cool things, prizes. Thank you. Maybe even a little. What do you call it? A little aperitif, a little amuse-bouche presentation. I don't know, Jeremy, if you still want me to do it. All right. I have a fun slideshow for you all to tell you about good jobs. So we got something over here.
You excited for the Godzilla -1 stuff?
He looks real spiky, and I want to grip one. That's about it. I saw the design. I was like, that looks neat. I'm one of those accidental snobs where I kind of just like the original Godzilla film, and I like Shin Godzilla. And I've tried with other ones. I don't hate them.
So you're Hideaki Anno.
I am Hideaki Anno, and I hope you really enjoyed Evangelion. It was a long process putting that together, but the whole team gave it their all, and we had a real good time, honestly. Congratulations. Omedetou. Anyway, those are the panels coming up. There's an organizer panel at 4, right? I'm not misremembering?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a Q&A with the organizer, Colin. And it's a chance for you to ask questions about TFcon, suggestions, or just give us input. Negative or positive, we prefer both. So yeah, that's at 4 o'clock. So we have a little bit of downtime before that. We have about 11 minutes before Colin, the founder of TFcon, joins us.
Let me ask you some questions then.
Of course, yeah.
I'll put you on the spot. Number 1, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. I'm doing
all right.
Well. TFcon is probably the weekend where I recharge my nerd batteries the most, because with busy jobs, busy lives, things happening in the world, sometimes you forget to enjoy your hobbies enough. And here, being around everyone else, it just feels so energizing.
I got a second question for you. Have you ever considered playing a really fun trading card game called Transformers TCG?
Well, I have, yes. I've actually currently got 2 decks. Or 2.5. I've got my original aggro Dinobot deck, which can be modified into the Volcanicus deck.
Okay.
And then I've got a moderately successful Omega Supreme deck.
Have you considered loading those decks into the wonderful fan-run community database and information website, transformers.cards?
I have not. Now, is that still using like Octagon and all that stuff?
Oh, that site supports Octagon, Tabletop Simulator, and webcam play. It's also a listing of every Transformers TCG card ever made, including the 3 waves of community-made cards.
Brilliant.
In fact, it includes PDFs of the Wizards of the Coast era if you just want to print off the cards you weren't able to find because Wave 5 doesn't exist. So, yeah, if you want to play a really good Transformers card game called the Transformers TCG Trading Card Game, which is now run by the community longer than Wizards of the Coast ran it, and has a fairly balanced meta of 3 waves of community-designed cards that go through a rigorous testing process with a Wave 9 on the way very soon, you might want to check that out.
Sounds like a good time to dive back into it.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, brilliant.
I might even be equipped to like tell you concepts about the game. I may have had to clear some of the giant stack of bulk I had in the TCG room out because we were having to empty the room and not leave, a stack of cards in there for the janitor to enjoy.
But anything, yeah, I'm always looking for anything to complement my. I'm a Dinobot. I play. This is where former TCGs maybe left me wanting a bit more. I have to be attached to the characters, so I don't play the best, most strongest characters, strongest decks. I get tired of that when people play the same decks over and over again. I'm always play my favorite characters. So Dinobots, Omega Supreme.
That's actually a great statement to say because it's worth noting that in the current community-run competitive meta, every tournament has maybe 2, maybe 3 duplicate deck lists out of, say, 8 to 16.
Okay.
The power creep has grown very wide rather than tall, and I don't know if you like characters like, Ashtray, Rummage, Rekgar, Battle Trap. Well, not Battle Trap yet. The other one, the tank one, Skytread.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff in there that stretches in a lot of different directions. I bet you could find some characters you like again among some of these newer cards to mix with your older cards.
I'm eager to find out myself.
Yeah, transformers.cards is the website where you can find out all of this and play the game for free at the cost of printing.
Amazing.
Or even at the cost of TTS, or just for free on Octagon OCTGN, an application that works on Windows computers.
Fantastic. Transformers.cards.
Transformers.cards.
Transformers.cards. Brilliant. Maybe on a very related topic, what are some of your thoughts about the newer deck building game, the more kind of board game style?
Oh, hey, Renegade Game Studios Transformers, the deck building game. I actually think it's very good, and I'm not just saying that because they're paying me, which they're not. It's a deck builder, which is it's a board game. And I feel like we had this conversation before about having to tell people those are 2 very different things.
Yes, yeah. Because, I think I feel like not a lot of people have adopted the new game because they think it's more like a TCG.
Yeah, the new game it's a board game. It's a type of board game that derives from games like Dominion or Star Realms. And it's a game where you start with a set starter deck, and the game play is that you're modifying that starter deck by using a card market. What makes the Transformers deck building game so interesting is that you also play a Transformers character who is traversing that card market. And in fact, I feel it is the most immersive of the Hasbro brand deck builders Renegade is doing. I've only played the G.I. Joe one as well, but I've looked into the gameplay of the other ones, and what I find baffling is that Transformers is often cited as the least immersive or thematic of the bunch, which to me seems categorically wrong. But also a lot of people give the G.I. Joe game, a good game, a lot of credit for having storyline cards, and I feel like that because it has story cards, it is more thematic, and that one-to-one doesn't make sense to me. The Transformers game is really solid. The only problem with it is that there is, amongst all the expansions, there are so many game modes and variations on the game modes that the lack of direction how to adjust all the cards for those game modes can be a bit much. The newest expansion, War on Cybertron, includes Autobots and Decepticons, but they both use the same and new starter deck. So my assumption is that the characters can exist in other modes, but if you're playing with those cards, you need to use those starter decks. The person who runs Transformers.cards, by coincidence, is involved in some of the playtesting on the Transformers deck building game. And there may be, at some point, maybe a website like Transformers.cards for the deck building game that collates erratas and stuff. But
fantastic.
Imagine that exactly one person is programming all of this stuff and hosting it on a Raspberry Pi in their house. And you'll see how, the timelines can be a little bit lengthy. Will you actually have your hand up over there?
Yes. You bring up Renegade Games. This is kind of for both of you or just anybody. What are your thoughts on the Renegade Games Transformers RPG?
I would like to see someone playing it because I can't find mechanics-oriented gameplay. I can find the promo gameplay they did.
I can help you. I have the book on my computer.
Maybe this time next year we have something like a live play or something like that.
I would love that.
I think,
I was
yeah.
hoping there'd be some people just having a room where they were just doing like pickup games or one-shot.
I was hoping that would kick off in the TCG room, kind of, because basically, not.
Here, I should have just done that.
Yeah, like not to like go on a rant about it or anything, but the common refrain has been a lot of us are interested to play it. No one really wants to GM it, and partly because some of us don't, like most of us don't really know how it works, and we like some people have read through the book and kind of got a little bit of grok on the system, but of mechanics-oriented video showing how some of it works is a hole right now, because Renegade commissioned some actual play, but it's so personality-oriented, it's very fun to watch, but I feel like I'm not really catching how the game works.
I did a little playtest with some of my friends previously, so I could give it a shot at some point.
Yeah, it's a void on. I mean, I haven't checked in the last month or so, but I felt like that was a big void on at least YouTube.
And everyone I've talked to here about that game, everyone says the same thing. They want to play, they want to create their own character. No one wants to GM.
Yeah,
they want to be able to be a character.
I've known a couple folks who are even interested in GMing, and not all of them, but some of them have said like the thing that is the wall they're running into is they just have no solid grok on the system other than like a perusal of the book. Oh, Jeremy, what's up?
We do have a video about the character creation thing that Mike from our podcast put together.
Character creation, you said? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, character creation is fun, but and I don't want to sound like Yeah, and I don't want to say like gameplay has to be about the mechanics, something real grognardy like that, but like just something that feels like I'm being led through like a basic scenario in the game of like here's the lead up to a conflict, here's conflict resolution, and here's the aftermath. I don't know. It just feels like that's like a missing piece of knowledge for me as someone. I'm someone who video learns versus read learns. Yeah. So there's that too. It looks like the folks came in.
It feels like Colin is on his way. So let's say another huge thank you to Vangelis. Thank you, buddy. Always a pleasure chatting with you, my friend.
Huge thank you to you as well for our impromptu tabletop game panel we just did.
Yeah.